Hello, you're listening to a TEN7 Audiocast. We're here today to discuss website accessibility. I'm Jonathan Freed, and I'm here with Yvonne Stegich, founder and president of TEN7. And joining us today from Ottawa, Canada, is our special guest, Mike Gifford, founder and president of OpenConcept, a web development firm specializing in open source development with Drupal. Thank you for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it. Mike, for those who aren't familiar with the industry term accessibility, would you please explain what it means to you?
So accessibility is a framework that's defined by the World Wide Web Consortium called POUR, or Perceive, Operate, Understand, and Robust, which basically means that websites can be perceived, that you can understand them, you can operate them, that you can be able to interact with the forums, that you're able to understand that information, and that you're also be able to do that under robust circumstances. It's especially difficult for people who have disabilities, so people who are blind, the deaf population, people who have mobility issues, people who are dealing with color blindness or with issues of even temporary disability.
It seems to me like accessibility is usually the last thing that anyone ever thinks about when we think about a website. Why do you think that is, and how could we upgrade that status?
Accessibility is often, if you're lucky, in an RFP or a contract, and it's sort of seen as a checkbox. It's something that people need to have for contractual purposes, but most of the vendors don't really understand web accessibility, and they don't know how to evaluate it. And they assume that the vendor will just build that in there. Very few web development vendors who are thinking proactively about how to go and organize their projects to see that accessibility is built into them. What's driving clients is a flashy proposal and a sharp-looking website that matches whatever's hot in web design this particular week. Then a lot of the other stuff is going to be forgotten, whether that's security, whether that's performance, or accessibility, because of the pressure from clients to pursue sites that are often more form than they are substance. Accessibility is part of that structural functionality that really needs to be thought in a project and built into it, just like security is, so that you're not trying to go off and leave it to the last minute. And most of the time, that's too late. There isn't much you can do to go off and improve the accessibility of a project once you're a week or two prior to launching the site.
It's a fact that more and more seniors are starting to use the web at a greater number than ever before.
I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about seniors in the web. I think that a lot of seniors are using the web for all kinds of things, not just online shopping, but and Facebook, getting involved in their local community or finding out what's happening with their grandkids' schools. Seniors now are including the baby boomer population. It doesn't make any sense to exclude a portion of the population that is the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful branch of them.
Tell us about the risks of ignoring accessibility issues, particularly in the United States.
There's always a risk of just excluding a portion of your user base. The US is a very litigious culture, and there's been a movement in the last year or two to pursue, because of a change in how the Americans with Disability Act is being interpreted by the Department of Justice. Right now, all organizations that need to meet the ADA, or the Americans with Disability Act, need to have their websites be WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. So things like you're supposed to have your site work without JavaScript. And that was useful in 97. It's really not useful now. Nobody's been following up on that. But there's a lot of changes between Section 508 and WCAG 2.0 AA. I think hundreds of organizations that have been sued in the last 2 or 3 years. You need to make sure that organizations are aware of that, and also see that they're working on progressively making their websites more accessible, and that they take some measures to just see that they're reducing their risks going forward.
I just wanted to say an extra special thanks to our Canadian Wonder Accessible guru, Mike Gifford.
Happy to have a chance to talk more about this with you and the TEN7 community.
Well, that brings us to the end of this audiocast, and I would like to thank Mike Gifford and Yvonne Stegich for sharing their insights. Please visit us at TEN7.com and keep an eye out on the TEN7 blog for future audiocast. This is Jonathan Freed, and thank you for listening.